If I remember how to do this show. Can't be aimed at us. We haven't moved anything.
The Wade and Carter Show is a paid programming, and KHMC Magic 95 assumes no responsibility for its content, and the Wade and Carter Show bears all responsibilities for their opinions.
Powerless, waterless, more Biden gaffes,
Clueless.
and we're back. All that and more coming up with today's Wade and Carter Show.
Before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1, no touching of the hair or face. Of course. And that's it. Now let's do this.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Good to be back with you, sir.
Glad you're back.
It is.
Seems like it's been forever.
It does.
It has.
It has been forever. But I found myself like giddy yesterday. We talked 4 or 5 times about, well, what are we going to talk about? We agreed we had nothing, but
there's nothing.
It was very exciting to think about being back on the air. It was a long week without, and Caleb did a great job while he was on.
Yeah.
He told me that he's having some merchandise printed.
Cool.
For the Wade and Caleb show, and just things he's going to sell on his website. But
I let him co-op the logo. Because it doesn't have to change much.
He reminds me of that often. Carter, something happens. If you're ever out, it's easy to make a transition.
Yeah.
But he does a
Something
great job.
happens to me, that logo's got to be completely revamped.
It'd be hard to find a W. Winlet and Carter. Now I could get Bill to come in here.
He wouldn't want it.
He's right. He couldn't take the pay cut. I tell you though, it's a fun thing to do, and we're glad to do it. And I think maybe a little levity and then just some updates on what's going on in the world. I know you're excited. Your president's been doing some great things.
Oh yeah, he's been awesome.
Yeah, he's made some more brilliant announcements. Oh, there you go. There's a tether there, Major Tom.
Yeah.
My astronaut just strolled out of the ship without with just disconnected his oxygen.
Yeah.
I
can't find the show on Facebook.
That's okay. People can find it. We don't need to find it.
It's good to see the comments.
You'll recall a couple of months ago. We don't have an agenda this morning, dude. Am I missing something?
Well, we got to do this before we get any further.
Do it. Yeah, folks, the Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great friends at Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. We've been very fortunate to have them, as have so many of our farmers and ranchers. You need hay, seed, weed control, fertilizer, all kinds of anything for a farm and ranch operation, but even around your house. You'll go and find things that they're just that one click more authentic than you find at the big box stores. I wish I had some kind of spreader.
Yeah.
Well, you go over there and their spreader is a real one because it's what the ranchers use. So I find them to be very not just convenient, but
they've got everything you really actually need.
National Weather Service has a winter weather advisory in effect certainly all day. It's been on for a couple of days. I don't know if y'all noticed. It's cold outside. 30 degrees in Victoria right now, heading to a high of 37. So could be worse. Could be
it's Puffy Vest Thursday
12.
on the Wade and Carter Show.
BJ Nelson noticed that. I'm going to tell you something. This thing is really warm, though. I was flattered. Put it on. I was like, I feel good. So back to your president. You remember a couple of weeks ago when it was actually a couple of months ago, when he blurted out that, poor kids are just as smart as white kids. They always say that a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. I think that his true character is revealed in some of the gaffes that he makes.
You think?
Yeah, the gaffes that, by the way, Donald Trump never made. Just didn't. Barack Obama didn't make them. George W. didn't make it. He wasn't that smart.
Do you want to play the first one here?
The first one, yeah, you can play it. Sure. In case you think I'm misquoting him.
I know I'm supposed to do smart things.
That's a
That's
commercial.
an ad, yeah. I didn't realize it was going to be an
But
ad
while he
for-
gets that up, he also he made another one the other day, and I'll get to it in a minute because it just goes to the root of the guy and the hypocrisy of the left.
Yeah. No, it's just this one was like, really? And if President Trump didn't even have to say anything even close to this
To get crucified,
To be-
impeached.
to be impeached, to be told that he was a racist.
The other portion is a lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that
Unbelievable.
COVID vaccination.
So there's your
So
guy.
basically, if you're
you're
Hispanic or black and you live either in the country
or in
or
the
the
inner
inner city,
city, you're too dumb to get on the internet. That's what your president, who, by the way, since we're stereotyping, he just described historically Democrat areas, maybe not the country, but to say the inner city, he literally said the inner city black and the Hispanics may not know how to get on the internet. Why wouldn't you say at worst? Why say anything at all? But why wouldn't you say at worst, those who live in our inner cities may struggle to get on the internet? Why do you have to take white people out of that? Because all white people know how to use the internet? Is that the deal?
that's the inference there, isn't it?
And I don't think that
When you exclude them out of your when you only point out the Hispanics and the blacks living in the inner cities or in rural
that's
communities,
called racism. That's what it is. And
but
I've
not
always
for,
thought he
not
was a
for this
racist.
president.
I've always thought he was a racist. I remember that he eulogized Robert Byrd, who was a KKK organizer. And I look back and I'm like, why do people gravitate, although it doesn't appear that nearly as many did as they claim, why do people gravitate to this guy as like he's some kind of savior that, orange man bad, orange man racist? Well, those poor kids are just as smart as white kids. That's annoying to me. Good morning, Wade and Carter. Welcome back to the reunion show.
This one.
Good morning, Wade and Carter. Hello? Pico?
Hello.
We have an open line. Nobody there.
Nobody there. We had an open line.
There you go. Well, I just wondered what you thought about that. We haven't talked about much of the day's events. It's been so cold, people, and don't feel bad about that.
And here's the other lie. Not quite to that extent.
When you and I talked last, we talked about it's one thing to have the vaccine, which we didn't have when we came into office.
Why?
But a vaccinator. How do you get the vaccine into someone's arm? And the biggest thing, though.
Does he mean a syringe?
Yeah, a vaccinator. Apparently, they're up to like 1.7 million a day, and apparently the U.S. now has enough vaccines to give everybody. I've had several people tell me they had terrible, terrible side effects with the second shot. So I don't know. Have you had it?
I have not.
I feel like I've had COVID so many times. I don't need to be immune. I've just learned to live with it. I'm a chronic COVID guy.
You're that guy.
I'm just living with it.
I don't know.
Stage 2
On this
COVID.
thing. But
It's been cold, Ash.
and
I
I'm
don't know
not
if you noticed
yeah,
this.
and I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
No.
But
Maybe not this vax.
maybe not this one yet. We'll see.
What do you think, people?
But I mean, and people defend him. The Biden apologists were saying things like, "Well, we didn't have a rollout plan. We had no distribution plan." That's what he was referring to. No, that's not what he was referring to. He's on a town hall in, I believe, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on CNN, And because it's not a debate, I'm pretty sure he got the questions in advance.
Sure.
So that's not an off-the-cuff remark.
No, he's rewriting history to make himself look more
The
important.
vaccine didn't exist when we got into office.
That's a lie, Joe. That's a lie, Joe.
Because in the last 3 weeks, they've managed to invent the vaccine, go through all the stages of testing,
Get it approved.
and roll out 1.7 million in 3 weeks' time. It's a miracle. It's a
miracle,
bloody
Joe.
miracle.
Joe did it. And even the Democrats don't believe that. Nobody believes that.
We were doing 1.2 million when the Trump administration left office. You can't not have a plan and get to 1.2 million vaccinations a day and about 920,000 on average since October. And that number gets skewed lower because early on, they weren't getting that many out there.
Right. Well, and you had that, if you'll recall back then, Biden was saying, Trump's got no plan. Trump's got no plan. We have a vaccine, but he has no plan to give it to the people. Now he's going so far as to claim that there was no vaccine until he got there.
And remember, this is the guy that campaigned and promised to fix the coronavirus issue. And then a week after getting inaugurated says, well, I really have no plan. It's a vaccine.
He said, there's nothing we can do in 3 months. I do want to say something that I think you'll appreciate. There's a timing aspect to what we do that it took us several years to really get right because I'm an interrupter. I'm always going, ooh, I got to tell you what I'm thinking, because if I don't, then I forget what I was thinking. It's taken me and Ash a while to have that give and go, that yin and yang, if you will, that makes it work. And it's
the thing that me and Caleb have just right off the bat.
Right. Yes, because you're both such givers. Whereas I'm more of a taker, and I get that. I'm an only child. But the serious point of this is those of us that dabble in radio, those that live in radio, those that just radio in general, felt a huge loss this week with the passing of Rush Limbaugh. And no matter your politics, no matter how you feel about Rush, Rushbo, El Rushbo, with his formerly nicotine-stained fingers and all of that stuff, all the way down to the Congressional Medal of Freedom or Honor, whichever it was. Rush Limbaugh was more than an icon. He defined the genre of talk radio to an extent that, the Hall of Fame should be called the Rush Limbaugh Hall of Fame.
Pretty much saved AM radio.
No doubt. And he passed, of course, he revealed back late in Trump's administration that he had stage 4 lung cancer. Battled it, went on and back and forth with his show in between treatments. And I noticed that he'd been gone for a couple of weeks, but there was never any pity. He was always gracious to the end. And just a quick shout out to his fans, and the number was staggering. It was staggering. Like 5 million people a day listen to his show. It's just unbelievable, which, we're fourth. There's Dave Ramsey's ahead of us, and then
Joe Pag.
That's about it. But
Sean Hannity, then maybe
Hannity we battled it out with Hannity, but just felt like we owed a little shout out to Rush.
Yeah, regardless of how you feel about Rush, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Rush Limbaugh.
I wasn't always. He was one of those guys that the right was always right, and I just don't believe that. Just like I don't believe that the right is always wrong either.
But he certainly, he was a pioneer in talk radio, obviously. And I think, and in my opinion, saved AM radio across this country.
He did stuff like all of his merchandise, which they sold stupid volumes of merchandise. All of the proceeds from that went to charity. So
a huge one of the reasons that the iPad and the iPhones caught on, I'm sure they would have. Apple went to him. He gave them out to his listeners.
Yeah, he was a big deal.
I mean, even Apple, Steve Jobs, as left as you can be a leaning guy, knew the power of Rush Limbaugh and his radio program and his listenership and his audience, and basically went to him when they launched new products to give to people to get in their hands, because he knew, consumer electronics don't have a political boundary.
That's exactly right.
The fringes may say, I'm not buying that because I don't like Steve Jobs. But for the most part, even Steve Jobs had to recognize the enormous influence and the audience that Rush Limbaugh had, and went to him to give away his products all the time.
Absolutely. Tie that into our banner sponsor, the VCS Company's Rocket Oilfield Services, and the only locally owned and operated.
Authorized.
Yeah,
that
one. AT&T, we've gone a week, people. AT&T retailer. If you need an iPad, if you need an iPhone 12 Pro Max, XYZ Rapid Turbo, they've got it. They've got all the accessories, chargers, the little cubes that you need, the cords you need for your car. They've got it all at the AT&T retailer. And again, I mean, the humor is that Rush helped build that. I mean, the demand, the pull-through demand for things like iPads originated in large part with people like Rush Limbaugh. Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300.
For all your towing and wrecker needs, of which there have been many these last few days.
There have been lots of folks. We got lucky here. You don't have to go any further north than Houston to see major issues with ice on the roads. We've had some here, but Houston was like, there were accidents after accidents. And, you wondered how this thing happened in Fort Worth last week, where 100 cars piled up. There's just no way to stop.
No.
Of course, shame on these 18-wheelers rolling 85 miles an hour. You saw one of them. I saw one of them come into a video where just
because they're so heavy, they're not going to slide, but they can't stop when they hit the brakes and the wheels lock up.
Right. Just come right through. Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Then you've got Chesnick Furniture Company. Get you a big, right now would be a great time to have like a corduroy, some kind of a soft material recliner. 50% off, 101 years, 116 West Juan.
Something that wraps you in warmth?
Enwraps you. In the corner of Juan Lennon Bridge. And always sunny downtown.
116 West Juan Lynn.
You can see from here the sun is shining. The sun is always shining on the courthouse. Judge Zeller will be in here in a few minutes. He signed an executive order mandating that the sun shine on the courthouse in the sunny downtown Victoria. Veracruz Restaurant. I don't know if Veracruz open today or not. We have a water issue in Victoria.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
And power issues.
But if they're not open today, maybe they'll be open tomorrow.
As soon as they can be. We didn't go through roll call. Lisa Poole, first one in. Good morning to you. Bobby Leister, welcomes us back. BJ Nelson, gonna go find her puppy vest. There's Patrick Strauss. Good morning, Marie Day. Judge Posey, good morning to you. Kendra Douglas checking in.
Good morning, Judge.
Chris Conrad, good morning. Look, we gained a YouTuber.
738 YouTubers.
Maybe that's our key. We need to be off the air more because
we were
gained
900.
We were at 737 all last week. Holding steady. Christina Wise, good morning. Bobby Leister, no, I'm drinking a Starbucks double shot coffee thing.
Yeah. Nobody had any water, so I stopped this morning and bought it. He's cranky, folks, with that little caffeine.
No, and no power. No power, no coffee. Kendra Douglas welcomes us back. Michelle Hawkins says she can finally make comments again. She had gotten banned.
There you go.
Dieter Johnston, good morning. Joel Gomez checking in. Marvin Mickish, good morning. H.R. Mallory saw H.R. the last little while. He was busy policing the streets.
H.R.'s been busy. Thank you to all of our law enforcement folks and first responders. You don't know what you're going to find. You go out there and find a car. I had to go to Houston the other day and saw an 18-wheeler on the side of around Wharton. He'd just gone. You saw this in the street.
Yeah.
And then the truck was on its side, and it had gone and kind of like hit a tree, and the cab was like that. It was just mangled. I don't think anybody got hurt, but it was just mangled.
Richard King, good morning. Richard King, by the way, 2300. He's the top bid of that SIG 9mm that we are auctioning off to benefit Warriors Weekend, and one local veteran of the Iraq War who has a daughter with special medical needs, and the bills are mounting. So
yeah, Ron Koshin will be in here tomorrow. We will finish off the raffling of that weapon. It's a beautiful. It's kind of got a weathered-looking American flag motif to it. It's a beautiful. It's a commemorative piece, but it's a working SIG P365. It's a nice 9mm weapon. You'd like to have it.
Kevin Myers checking in. That Travis Gundalak says that call was about our car's extended warranty.
Probably.
Jennifer Caslow, good morning. She says she's not getting this vaccine. Kevin Myers says the military experimented enough on him.
We don't even notice that twitch.
Peter McNally, you guys are grasping for a subject this morning. Much more to talk about, ERCOT, namely. We're getting to it, Peter. We're getting to
Pete,
it.
we'll get to it. But Peter,
but it doesn't overshadow the fact that our president just basically said black people and Hispanic people are too dumb to get on the internet.
That is what he said. It doesn't take much of an inference to get there, Peter. And what's interesting to me is,
and everybody else here knows what we're in the middle of.
Why do smart, caring, compassionate, highly educated people like Pete McNally apologize for this president? That's what I don't understand. We talk about accountability. We talked about accountability so much we impeached President Trump over nothing twice. Why do the Democrats not turn around and say, hey, Joe, shut up, Joe? Why is that? Why is it when it's their dog, it's okay that he bites everybody? When it's your dog, if he growls, we got to put him down. I don't understand that. It's the hypocrisy of the left. And Peter McNally is my poster child. And I love the man. He's a smart, smart man. Oh, but you do about nothing here. Joe just said that blacks and Hispanics were too stupid to get on the internet, but don't dwell on it. He's unifying the country because now we're all dumb.
But Trump said MS-13 are rapists and gangsters, and after that, every Mexican was a rapist and a gangster.
You know who spread that rumor? The
CNN.
Democrats. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, Trump said that all Mexicans are rapists. No, he didn't.
J-Dub, good morning. Scott Tomko checking in. Ask who the new guy on the right is.
Thank you, Scotty. Good to be back.
Let's see who else is in. David Glass, good morning. Matt Boucher.
I tried to call Matt Boucher the other day. The hotline was down.
He doesn't want to talk to anybody right now. Because I think I could probably go back, but on record here, I think he was saying long-term forecast don't look good for another blast of winter.
He did say, yeah, winter's over, and that's not a good thing. So this must be a great thing, huh?
Yeah. Well, you know what? This freeze should kill the mosquitoes that haven't died the last two winters.
Kill them and all their kids. Yeah.
I hope so. Terry Murray, good morning.
Like a mafia hit.
Sheriff Louderback checking in. Tom Price. Funky Trey Molina, the funky man, is in. Trey sent me a picture last night out in his pajamas and boots.
Yeah,
tending to broken water pipes under his house. Man, seen a lot of that.
Good morning, Sheriff Louderback.
My well froze. I had a couple broken. Had my pressure switch went on it, so I had to go to Lowe's and get that. I bought a new pressure gauge too because that thing wasn't working right.
Do you see while
the people in Lowe's buying PVC piping? I can only imagine
the
busted pipes and leaks.
Did you see while we were on sabbatical on a weather leave? Did you see how Sheriff Louderback just goes ahead and he dropped down a notch? You know, we talked about Rush, Dave Ramsey, us and Hannity. He went to Tucker Carlson. Did you see that one?
Yeah. We had him on last week while you were
while I was out
in Cabo.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I was in Cabo. I'm the tasty gangster over here.
Matt Boucher says potable water is available with free coffee at Sun Valley Ranch while it lasts. Thank you, Glenn Dry, for doing that.
Yes, sir.
I may stop by and get that free coffee on my way home.
It's not for you. They don't want you there.
Anita Scroggins checking in. Richard Jimenez, good morning.
Hey, Richard.
Jeff Fonseca says over 100 water valves are shut off in Victoria, according to the press conference I saw yesterday. Let's see, Kathleen Leininger in. You got to wonder as we get into the power issue before we bring the judge in, because ERCOT is a mess. If I'm not mistaken, we imported a guy from California to be the chair of that.
Bob Magnus.
Right? Isn't he from California?
Okay. I don't know.
Well, Canadians know how to generate power in cold weather. I'm not going to knock a Canadian who's on the board.
Well,
but California is the king of rolling blackouts whenever they have a little bit too demand in the summer when it gets hot in California.
Right.
And I don't know. You just got to wonder if he's got any power background at all. Why? I don't know.
You want to talk about people being upset? I talked to a friend of ours down in the valley yesterday. He's in Harlingen. It's 52 degrees. His neighbor hadn't had power for 3 days. He goes, Brent, it's 52 degrees. We got no juice. I go, yeah, well,
Hey, it's 52.
There you go.
Better than 28.
At least you're
and
not
no
freezing
juice.
to death. But I mean,
It's cold.
he's like, why? But why? It's not like there's not frozen lines. They're just not sending us any power. Yep.
True.
What's up? With
I think they've got to come up with a new acronym because what is it? Electrical Reliability Commission of Texas.
Yeah, the reliability.
Yeah,
part
the reliability part's got to
What
go.
about UCOT, the energy unreliability?
Yeah, there we go. Clint Eisen, Anita Scroggins, Mike Bloschke.
Hello, Michael. Yeah, he said it's already been a busy morning with Rex.
Yeah, not good.
Anita says the mosquitoes will be back at 5 p.m.
Chris Conrad says, forget the PVC, get PEX.
Right.
Kelly Fromme, good morning. Let's see. Chris Conrad says, one of the 9 board members on ERCOT lives in Texas.
Yeah, did you see that? Mallory said he thinks it's a UT grad.
Okay.
That hurts.
The chair's from Michigan.
Vice chair's from
Okay.
Germany.
So, oh, man. Lori Reese, good morning.
What a group. Good group.
Good group. So I mean, and it's okay. Initially, the reports were that the windmills were freezing and the solar panels weren't working or weren't collecting because we were clouded over. But then we found out that water lines froze going to natural gas plants and to our nuclear power plant in South Texas, and that people weren't able to get into work. I remember a time when if weather got bad, they told you, you know what, you're not leaving, you're staying here now. We've got beds for you. You're stuck here until the weather episode.
Stay here and work.
Yeah.
I saw one, Ash, over the weekend. There was a windmill that had ice hanging all off of it. And there was a helicopter hovering, spraying a solution on it. And it said, make a note of this, a helicopter flying on petrochemical is spraying a petrochemical-based product onto a petrochemical-made windmill, turbine fan blade in order to get free electricity. The point is
probably the same de-icing stuff they use on jets, I would think.
Yeah, and the windmill solution is not. It's a joke. It's a government.
Represents about 11%, somewhere between. I've seen anywhere from 11 to 15% of the total power generation in Texas.
Right, but not the power capacity in Texas. See, what happens is if you've got the windmills cranking, then you can take other units offline to do maintenance and do things. And because we're always gearing up for the next heat wave, because remember we had climate change, we were gearing up for the next heat wave. So right now is when a lot of people will take a gas turbine apart, clean it up, make sure everything's working right, and put it back together while demand is typically low. Yeah. But then you have an Arctic freeze come in, then you got problems.
Well, I was looking at the power generation in Alberta, Canada, where the temperatures have been well below 20 below for the last week or two.
Nobody wants to live there.
But of the power being generated, I think 1% of the total power was being generated by wind. Coal was running at almost full capacity. Natural gas was running close to full capacity. Those two forms of power transmission or generation alone were about 90% of the total power generated in Alberta in the coldest time of the year that they have had.
Right. I don't understand why natural gas plants aren't just churning right now. Apparently there's a shortage of natural gas. How can that be?
Well, because it doesn't cost anything, so they're not producing it.
There you go.
And the other thing I heard was, somebody, ERCOT probably made the decision to send power to heat homes or gas to heat homes rather than to power electric. So if you were a natural gas heated home, your home was heated. If you're an electrically powered home, you had no heat.
See, my problem is I've got natural gas heaters, but they blow the air with electricity.
Yeah.
So there's the problem. The issue, it does seem that it always comes back to profit. It's not about really reliability. It's about spreading of resources.
But if you've got, we always take a 100-year flood and plan for the worst. Now we've got a 100-year freeze, and will we plan for the worst ever again? I don't know. Are we going to bury water lines a little deeper so that they don't freeze, or so that they get below the thaw line so that when the ground starts thawing out, we don't have heaving and breaking pipes and water mains go down and water issues and boil water orders all through South Texas. I mean, Victoria's not alone in this.
See, and I don't know. They always say you don't build a church based on the crowds on Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I think. What I'm hoping comes of this is the identification of the trouble spots and then the addressing of same. I mean, it ought to be pretty easy. There's spot. I'll give you an example. I have a tankless water heater. It's in my attic. It never crossed my mind that I would, once I had water, that I would turn it on and nothing would come out. I had to get a little MAP gas heater, go up in my attic, point it at that junction where the water comes in. After about 5 minutes, that melted and everything works fine again. It's the same thing on a bigger scale with the city. I mean, find a way to wrap that. Put a generator out there, wrap it with a heat blanket, if you will, and just keep it from freezing. I mean, it's all a function of how big a fire do you want to build. But I don't know. I think, and now is not the time for it, but I think at some point we have to address not blame, but just accountability to our city for the way that our city has been allowed to deteriorate. I don't know. I remember
first blush would lead you to believe that this is a product of years of not addressing water mains and water lines in this city.
And yet, how do you know? I go back in my head, and like I said, it's a big question for another day. But I go back in my head, and I remember, as much as I like him, Raleigh McCoy ran heavily for mayor on the idea that, Mayor Pawlowski and Charmel, they just ignored the water issue. And after Harvey, it was a debacle and it was terrible. And the towers should have been filled with water in anticipation of a storm and yada, yada, yada. I remember that. I was like, I don't know enough about it, so I ain't going to talk about it.
And they were this time around, but we had no way to get the water from the towers to the people because all the lines are broken.
So the next logical question is, in as much as Mayor Pawlowski could be held accountable for the water in the towers, should Mayor McCoy be held accountable for the water that didn't get to the people? I don't know. I mean, I felt bad for both of them. But I think that there's going to be some explaining to do, Lucy. Somebody's going to ask a tough question at some point.
Jennifer Castle says, Washington, I'm assuming the state just put a bill forward to stop natural gas.
Yeah, those people that are hating that pipeline, that Keystone pipeline right now, they're going, give me some gas, man.
Well, that was oil.
Whatever. But same thing.
I digress.
Yes.
You don't have to digress to that, Snoffer.
Right. Since 1926, Victoria's dealer. Chevy, Cadillac, Mazda, Mitsubishi, all the pre-owned, all the paint and body, all the service, they've got it all. Get by there. Let them hook you up. They will take care of you. The Atzenhower dealership, still Victoria's family dealer for almost 100 years. It's just ridiculous. 95 years this year that they've been in business. And they've just owned all of Navarro ever since. I mean, they lease it out to people, but it's all on 100-year leases. It's like being at Port Mansfield. You just lease it for a while.
White Trash Services, they have not closed their doors.
No, 550-1826. You need service today. You need a dumpster. You need a roll-off for a project. Give them a call. You want to do you need to clean out that freezer where the electricity's been off for a week? Call them. They'll drop a dumpster, fill it up, and haul it off. They've been working, Scott Nelson, not the skeleton crew, but the essential workers, the throwers and the drivers.
BJ's been home wrapped in,
sure.
in heated blankets and what are those hot shots that you used to put in your pockets?
She's at home right now wearing a puffy vest, happy to be part of the team. But know that White Trash Services is on the job, 550-1826. Razor IT Solutions, tell you what, now's a great time to reach out to JP Hull. He works indoors. He can work on your firewall, on your encryption.
If you have power and internet.
Tell you what, though, right now is when they ain't got nothing to do. They're trying to hack into your system. You better reach out to Razor IT Solutions and let JP and his crew make sure that all your data is safe and that everything you do stays with your business. And then the law offices of Stephen Kidder. Stephen's busy all the time. All kinds of law, too, by the way. If you just have general contractual questions, you'd be amazed how much you follow it down, and it usually comes back to 4 or 5 basic questions. And Steven's really, really good at helping you figure out where
Usually
you need to
one.
be.
Did you do it or did you not do it?
Right. Well, is there a duty? Is there a breach of the duty? These kinds of things Steven is really good at. And I mean, we don't like to see it, but if you have a family law issue, if you need a will, a trust, if you need to do any of that kind of stuff, give Steven a call. Don't we're not giving away divorces here. We'd rather you not get divorced. But if you have a chance to reach out to Steven, he can help you.
If you have a chance to run, I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, if you get a chance to get away from her, please take it. 50 ways to leave your lover. One of them is the law offices of Steve Kidder.
And Complete 360.
Well, they've got 2 locations now. One on Navarro up next to like Cherryberry and Buffalo Wild Wings. That go in there. It's a little sanctum of health. Whether you need a smoothie or down here at Red River.
Yeah, I'm guessing with no water down here.
They may be closed.
Maybe
I know that a lot of the juices and stuff are fruit juices. They may be open on the smoothie side, but everybody's having to deal with the water right now. But Complete 360 makes protein-based drinks. They make all kinds of wraps and paninis, and it's a fabulous place. Yeah. So get by there and check it out.
Jennifer Caswell says they also want to remove 2 dams already installed. Cleanest form of energy because of the Green Deal. It's about money, not the environment. Yeah, the environmental issues took place, I don't know how many, decades ago when they dammed the rivers and you flooded what was once fertile farmland. If you look at Texas, history of that, other places. But the ecosystems then changed, evolved, became, you had new ecosystems. But I mean, what are you going to do? I think this is in Washington. What are you going to do when you remove 2 dams that are already installed, already there, providing electricity? The Green New Deal does not make any sense when it comes to some of the things that they're trying to get done.
100% agree. So
curious though, just your thoughts as the judge makes his way over to the mic to the
across
guest
our
mic.
Spacious studio. It's no longer a little closet
pillbox.
Like yeah,
but. You think people are going to say, you know what, let's just bury those water lines another foot this time as I'm building a house? Or let's put a little bit more insulation in the walls
could do
so
it.
that the pipes don't break.
Could help and wouldn't cost very much. Tom Ennis, the world's greatest neighbor, I know you have your own greatest neighbor story in the country, but Tom pointed out, and I did get some data on this, that 1 unit of the South Texas nuclear project was shut down. ERCOT, they cap the cost of electricity in Texas at $10,000 a megawatt hour. And the plant would have been obviously maxed out. And they had 1 little steam line that froze and it tripped a breaker because it's always, unbelievably redundantly safe, which nuclear energy is. And it is the miracle energy.
Tell the folks in Chernobyl.
Totally different situation, totally different era, totally different country, totally different regulations and lack thereof. The United States nuclear power
3 Mile Island,
unbelievable. Nothing happened there. There was no residual, no loss of life. At the end of the day, nuclear energy is the green energy. And the idea that these folks don't embrace that, just again, it's, hey, let's put batteries in our cars, and then what are you going to do with the batteries? Same thing.
Here's the other thing too. I mean,
$12 million an hour, Ash. $12,450,000 an hour profit over the cost of generating electricity is being lost every day. $320 million a day of profit.
There's a whole bunch of banging going through the
I don't know what
microphones.
the
judge is
doing
knocking stuff everywhere.
Banging stuff around.
The other thing I think that maybe it's time now for the city to finally start putting power lines underground.
Maybe.
When you've got ice snapping limbs and ice knocking down power lines, and every time we have a hurricane, trees knock them down.
We'd be hitting them with excavators while we're trying to fix the water pipes. That's just Keystone Cops in Victoria. Good morning, Judge. I know everything's great in the county, so we're not, enough city talk.
Good morning to you both. Good morning to everybody watching or listening online.
How are you, sir?
Back here in some tough times we're going through.
Yes, sir.
The last several days and even now and in a few days ahead, it's more than just an inconvenience when the coldest days on record are the days we are without power, without water.
And we're going to get down into the teens again tonight.
Correct. The cold weather's not over. Tonight, tomorrow morning, and then again on Saturday morning, it's down into the 20s. I saw it'll warm up after that, but it's serious. Across the state, there's millions of people without power. Many more millions either without water or under boil water notices, like here.
San Antonio, Austin, Houston, all have, or various parts of those metropolitan areas have various boil water notices.
As of yesterday afternoon, there's probably 10,000 households in Victoria with no electricity. A lot of that is attributable to supposedly the rolling outages. I think the problem is that for many people, they're not rolling. They've been without power for days.
Stagnant outages.
Like Brent mentioned, a lot of this merits review after the fact, policy change, law change perhaps, but for the moment, the priority is should be to get people power and water again, because I think the next thing we'll likely see is fuel issues, availability of gasoline, fuel. Grocery stores are impacted. So, I think it's beyond an inconvenience. It's serious.
Chris Cox, Trey Molina, and HR all say good morning, Judge. It is serious, and I don't know what, I don't know what we do. On one hand, you sit there and say, well, it's cold. I mean, it is what it is. It's welcome to nature. I don't think you can. It's not about casting blame at anybody so much as is what do we do next time?
Yeah, well, and that's a good point. But before we get to that, there are some resources available. Matt Boucher, I know, messaged in one of them out at Sun Valley, like he mentioned today. There's well water available, non-potable water. You can bring your buckets, your containers to, I believe, get out of their old swimming pool to take back home.
Flush the toilets, things like that.
Flush the toilets. Again, there's also well water at 10 to 6 today is what they posted online. Also coffee and warming available. VISD has announced that 2 of its campuses will be open today for not only warming, but meals available too. I jotted down those.
And I want to give a shout out to Bill
and Hopkins. 11 to 2 today.
I want to give a shout out to Bill Wendland as well. He offered places in many of his properties for people to stay warm when it got really cold as well.
And people like Bill, instances like that, we've seen a lot of. And in fact, as cold as it has been and was and is, our warming shelters have not been overrun or not been anywhere near capacity, even during the coldest times in the last few days at the Salvation Army. There continued to be ample capacity there. That was one of the resources available. Midcoast Family Services still continues to accommodate people. And it's good to see that they weren't overrun. There was not a capacity issue there.
A lot of that's Victorians helping Victorians,
Yeah, and that's what we've seen, and that's what we'll have to continue to see, especially in the next few days, because again, it's clear that a lot of people don't have water in reserve available. The hurricane stash maybe got utilized right after hurricane season. It wasn't there, so that will be an issue in the next few days.
But and I don't want to put blame on people, but we knew for a week this was coming.
Right.
If you watched any of the weather, you knew this was coming.
Especially if you're Canadian.
Well, and maybe because we just have not seen this type of cold in our lifetimes down here. Not certainly the 26 years I've lived here, I haven't seen this. But I don't think people took it seriously enough.
I think you're right. I think it's kind of an all of the above situation. That's certainly a factor. We did see it coming. Of course, the situations we're facing are a lot like during hurricane season, power outages, food and water availability. It's just now it's freezing cold.
Gas shortages, generators running, all that stuff.
Yeah. So but I think the focus now should be on getting water back available again, electricity. And
2 to 3 days in the water, according to the city from the update yesterday afternoon.
I watched that update also, and I don't know all the intricacies of the city of Victoria Public Works, but I think it's safe to plan for a few days before water is readily available again. Some parts of the city, it's back in high pressure as of this morning, from what I'm hearing. But for many people, thousands, it's not. Downtown, our county facilities don't have water. It's affected the hospital, a juvenile center, lots of other places. So it's widespread and not.
But just because you have water pressure doesn't mean you should drink it, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, even after you get full pressure back, the city, we're being told, will be under a boil water notice for probably days after it returns.
Doesn't the Texas Commission oversee that, and then they have to test it or get test results and all that stuff before they can say we're good?
San Antonio's in the same boat. It's not like Victoria's got some bumbling.
No. As of last night, went under the same. Yeah, I think I read that at least 12 million people across the state are in a similar situation. So, it merits after action review. The ERCOT situation, I know in times like this, an instinct for many is to point fingers, assign blame, and that may be fine if it's accurately assigned. I know the governor put an emergency legislative issue reviewing ERCOT, which prior to recently, I wasn't all that familiar with ERCOT, what they did. Blame may be assigned.
Maybe not. Maybe they did nothing.
Well, and that very well could be.
We didn't do a thing.
ERCOT is overseen by the Public Utility Commission. The entire board of the PUC is appointed by the governor. So
this falls in his lap.
It's.
Well, I'm seeing some some accusations, a lot of political patronage to those appointments as well. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
accusations fly. We'll look into it, but
we'll see which ones are true and accurate. But yeah, it is challenging times. We went like thousands of others, 2 nights with no electricity.
Have we had any fatalities that you know of?
Not in Victoria County.
Okay,
not in Victoria County. Fortunately, I did see a couple homes burned in DeWitt County. I think one last night.
Every year it happens, Judge. People do things. It happens every year. There's 2 things that you can count on somebody doing every time. People bring a barbecue pit into their home and light it thinking they're going to keep warm.
Yeah.
And then they end up shoving it out of the middle of the living room. It gets against the curtain, and the next thing you know, the house is on fire. It happens every time. Or
the carbon monoxide kills them.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens every year is at Thanksgiving, somebody decides to fry a turkey in the kitchen. And they get it just happens. It's human nature to make certain mistakes. But it's a shame that it does happen.
Yeah, well, it is tragic, and it's easy to say, oh, they should have known. But when it's 15 degrees outside, and
don't turn on your gas stoves to heat your house. Don't run your cars in your garages. If you're running a generator, make sure it's well away from any sources that draw air into your home, so the exhaust doesn't come in. Just a lot of things that people don't always know either.
No, unfortunately in Victoria, no fatalities based on this. But again, it is impacting our hospital, a lot of our facilities. And so the priority is to get that back to normal. It is challenging, frustrating for me that some of the biggest issues going on here really the county's not associated with, has a ability to impact them like with the electricity.
Because it's not like going out and fixing a bunch of down power lines after a hurricane. We're being affected as much by the rolling blackouts or the lack of those blackouts rolling than anything.
Yeah, and also the water situation. It is a challenge, and I think it's more than an inconvenience. We've seen the dangers of it. It's freezing, and it's going to freeze again tonight and tomorrow. So.
21 for the low tonight, just looked at 18 for the low tomorrow. Got a good question, but let's take our final break and then we'll get to it.
Real quick, Daniel Moore Garza, friend of the show, friend of ours, and a friend of your family. If you have loved ones who need pre-plan, whether you want to pre-plan a funeral, you want to pre-plan what your wishes are. Some folks, you never knew that Grandpa wanted to be cremated. You never knew that he wanted to pay for that in advance and have that burden off of Grandma.
Want to be buried in his blue suede shoes.
There you go, Elvis. reach out to Dana Moore de la Garza. She can help you with everything from securing a plot, say at Memory Garden, all the way through, say, Grace Funeral Home. You need to have your funeral wishes fulfilled, all the way down to helping you get that prepaid and out of the way and caskets selected, all of that type of stuff. Dana Moore de la Garza is a one-stop shop. I mean, I'm not trying to trivialize what she does, but I mean, it's from start to finish. She can take you through the whole process and help you address the issues that you may otherwise not even know to address. She can do that for you. Motto Mortgage. Now, right now, interest rates are low. After this, interest rates may soar. The Fed may decide that, hey, we can't do what we're doing. Reach out to Terry Murray at Motto Mortgage and let her help you refinance. Or if you're going to buy a home, let her help you get that initial
conventional
mortgage.
FHA. They've got all VA loans, reverse mortgages. Terry's an expert in reverse mortgages as well. So stop on by Motto Mortgage right there between Jason's Deli and Sally Beauty Supplies.
Went Services. Don't even call, okay? They're kind of busy. Now, on a serious note, we told you to reach out to Went Services way back when and get you a generator. Now you have another reason to have a Generac, Cummins, Kohler, Briggs and Stratton.
Piece of advice, though, if you want your generator, your backup generator to run your heat, because your heating system takes more energy than your cooling system, you need to make sure that you ask for that specification. Otherwise, you may not get it. So
right, you might have lights and no heat, because we don't typically buy a generator. We buy a generator thinking, I want my refrigerator to run, my lights to run,
and my AC to run
after the hurricane, which is always in the summer. This takes a little bit more juice. Those you've got one of the generators over there was 100 amp generator, and Aaron went and told me that with your heater on, it's pulling 60 amps before you ever do anything else. You only got 100 available, so be aware that they know how to calculate that. That's the good thing. They'll come out, they'll help you out, and now is a good time. And I've known Carl Went for years. They are selling generators for the exact same price today that they were in the spring. So get a hold of Went Services today. USA Concrete Coatings, 578 Home. Let Charlie come out and clean up, straighten up, seal up, and put a great polyurethane coat on your garage floor, patios, pool decks, walkways, anything like that. If you've had a slip and fall issue at your home,
don't sue yourself.
No, Charlie's got a coating that has a grip to it. So that'll help. You know, I mean, nobody walks on ice, but the surface itself is really good. And then, of course, the Gray Barn, 920-6803. Reach out to Cheryl at 920-6803 to plan your next party and get together. We're excited to welcome Texas Coast Limousine. Ash, tell us a little bit about Bob Constantine.
Bob Constantine's limousine venture. They've got 5 different party buses, all different sizes, from 15 to 28 passengers. So you can take the whole party with you wherever you're going. If you're going to Schrader, you got a bachelor or bachelorette party.
28 people.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Wow.
Brand new fleet of limousines as well. Traditional 10-passenger limousines, some a little bit bigger. They've got a wedding trolley available as well. So shuttle buses for corporate travel to and from. If you're having a bachelorette or bachelor party at an exotic location, or even your wedding, get everybody on one of their buses to take to the airport and everybody come back. Nobody has to drive. You've got no parking expenses. You share that amongst you. Great way to get it done safely, and you can party from the time you leave Victoria till the time you get back.
Now, that wedding trolley is really cool, Judge. It's all white, and it's got a back balcony that is perfect for taking photos and all that. And then inside, it's got the oak benches, so it has kind of a vintage look.
Yeah, it's pretty
very cool for that special wedding. Probably more in the spring, though. What do you think? Probably not right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
575 Limo is the number to call for Texas Coast Limousine.
What are the odds? I mean, if it had been like 575 Cigar, he probably would have started a smoke shop. But if it's 575 Limo, you got to have Texas Coast Limousine.
That just shows how wonderful his adaptability is. He got the phone number, said, "Let's go limo business."
Saints be praised.
Good sponsors. That's good.
We do, and Judge, we owe you a little bit of that. You kind of helped, advance the legitimacy of the format. And the reality is, people understand that we need a public
forum,
and you've helped us with that. So.
Yeah, well, 5 years in, This is the first time I've been invited since you've been in the new location.
We had to tell him where the new location was.
But happy to be
Standing
here.
invite, standing invite.
You're saying there were some questions that
Yeah.
come in about the.
Adam Daughtry asked, what can the city and county do to set aside things to expect when natural disasters, or set aside resources for immediate deployment when they're needed in the case of a natural disaster? I would think things like water would be hard to keep handy because they would sit and probably go bad before you'd ever dispense them.
Well, they do. I mean, there are things that are set aside. A lot. I mean, our specific facilities, the hospital, for example, is without water, running water. However, there's thousands of bottles of water in reserve for drinking. There's a reserve reservoir tank that keeps. They're still operational in spite of that. The sheriff's office, our other facilities have that in reserve. Typically, there's methods to get resources and get resources fast. The challenge we're facing is that every county in the state is largely in the same scenario. We put in a STAR request through the state, which is the mechanism to get resources down quickly, in many cases almost immediately. A week's supply of water for 96,000 people, or maybe 5 days. Typically, that would be met quickly. If this were a hurricane, we'd have it, but everybody else is doing the same thing.
Right.
So it is
Well, when roads are frozen, you can't get things here.
That's
Yeah.
going to be impacting our fuel, gasoline availability. So
And no electricity to pump the fuel out of the ground.
right. So to answer the question there are things that we can and do store, and that's the reason why our critical facilities assets are still up and running. But as far as having enough in supply to dole that out to the public, keeping that is a challenge. And water too. Just depending on the type of container, that certainly does have not an indefinite shelf life.
I don't know how you move forward. I keep thinking that I believe that this winter storm for the state of Texas is going to be the costliest storm of any storm ever recorded, including Harvey and all that for sure. I think it's just
because it impacted 33 million people.
Yeah, it's going to devastate.
Yeah, and it's hard at this point to even know the damage to people's homes, people's facilities, because like just looking at the county now, a lot of our places are shut down currently. Our offices, we won't know really for the next few days, maybe into next week, what all pipes burst, what all damage there is. I know a lot of our facilities have had busted pipes and water damage, some significant, and that's the same thing people are facing in their homes, and those are expensive repairs. So I think it will be costly. It's hard to know what that estimate will be at this point.
Changing gears a second, Patrick Strauss now bids $2,400 on that SIG 9mm that we're raising money for Warriors Weekend. So,
one thing I haven't heard,
Thank you,
and that's
Patrick.
great, Patrick. One thing I haven't heard,
that
I
auction
have
ends
not heard the
tomorrow.
word FEMA, the acronym FEMA, one time during all this. Is it because it's statewide and it's such a big issue that nobody wants to talk about FEMA yet?
Well, FEMA will play a part after this in terms of reimbursements, eligibility. I think many of the thresholds of damage and cost will be met. But in terms of the immediate challenge, gas, water, food, fuel, all that, that's not something FEMA would respond to. But after the fact, as local entities, public entities apply for reimbursement that we may be eligible for, that FEMA, the feds will play a part in that. And that'll be a challenge. That's always a very lengthy, cumbersome, terrible process.
Just an observation. I don't know. I haven't done any research to see if that's actually true, but about 2/3 of the state geographically gets weather like this probably every year or so. It's not an irregular occurrence. From about 2/3 of the state geographically, right? From about San Antonio down, you're not going to see this type of weather.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that about 1/3 of the state geographically is now basically crippled the rest of the state when it comes to the power generation, when it comes to You know what I'm saying? It just seems that
Yeah, us getting abnormal weather ruins the whole state. Because Amarillo gets it every year.
I mean, it's our nuclear plants that are offline, not.
It is unusual. Even the thing people compare it to was about 10 years ago, and even that wasn't
Like this at all.
Wasn't nearly like this. So.
It is interesting. I think about, for those that were on the fence about a generator from Went, if the hurricane season every year you get through it and you're like, whew, throwing this into the mix ought to tip you over the edge.
Michelle Hawkins says her natural gas generator has been a lifesaver.
Yeah, well, any generator, I mean, even your little portable gas powered generator, those who have those.
They'll run a space heater if nothing else.
They will. So, yeah, I mean, really, it's like the hurricane scenario, just with dangerously cold temperatures. But we, on our side, will continue doing what we can to try and get things back to normal as quickly as possible. I know we continue to work exceptionally well with partners at the City of Victoria, other entities, public entities, private entities, and it's tough because, goodness, I mean, we're still dealing with the COVID situation, the vaccine rollout.
I had a question on that. Have COVID restrictions been lifted because of the cold weather and occupancies?
No.
And Trey Molina said, Judge, with a state of emergency, do counties ever see funds?
Yes. The answer is yes. After Harvey, we were able to through FEMA, through the feds, be reimbursed. A lot of that, it's looking like the COVID expenses as well as this winter storm, we'll be seeing funds from that also. With COVID, we have seen some money to most of our public entities. So the answer is yes.
We've got Ralph Salazar, the Hall of Famer, and Brother Gary Moses are standing by, ready to take over. The mics are hot. The mics are hot this morning. We need to get out of here, but Judge, thank you for always being accessible. Thanks for coming by.
It's a rule of mine never to take the mic when Brother Gary's around, so I'm going to step aside.
And now that you know where we're at,
you only borrow the mic when the
we'll have to move.
You don't own the mic.
We'll have to move.
Now that he knows where we're at. Watching online, good to see you guys. And until next time.
Absolutely. Thank you. You can go back to the green room, have a waffle. We'll be there in a minute. Folks, we're going to get out of here. Ash is going to play you some goodbye music, and we love you. We'll talk to you manana.
Bye, folks.
Oh, that's a good show right there. That's a good program.
Paid programming.
Oh, yeah, we're good. Really good.
Brother Gary, good to see you. And the Wade and Carter Show bears all responsibilities for their opinions.
Don't move those speakers. I don't know if you put that on. I don't know where they are. I just didn't touch them.
Don't touch it.
I didn't touch them. I didn't. That looked like something Lilo wrote.
I don't know how to get mad.
Well, I don't know. I didn't tell you what.
Good to see you, Judge.
Judge, you're good, sir?
Electricity. I've had electricity and water. But I lost cable on 2 TV sets.
Well.